Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to Bitcoin and Beyond. I am Melanie Carstens. I am your host, and today I am joined by Mitchell from the Stacks Foundation, Interim Executive Director, who is responsible, I think, over the last couple of years for actively shaping where the Stacks ecosystem is going. So welcome, Mitchell. It is so awesome to have you here today.
Yeah, thanks, Mel. Thanks for having me. I was getting into the intro music there, and then it cut out. I'll have to get that one from you.
It's a vibe. There's such good music out there. The other day, my husband is a musician, and he is not a fan of like AI music and all that. And the other day, he was listening actually to the deorganized news music playing, whatever, and he said, "Geez, that's such good music. What is it?" And I was like, "I think it's AI."
Oh, no, you got him.
Yeah.
No, it's interesting. I follow quite a few producers on Instagram and whatever, Twitter, and it's fun to see the different sides of the whole AI and music argument right now. There's some that are, hey, this is just another tool, we're going to figure out how to wrangle it, and then there's others that are like, it's the devil, I don't want it. Anyhow, I don't know what you have in store for us today, but I could talk about music a lot, and
I know this might
I'm here for you.
This might turn into a music and art show because the both of us have a big love and passion for music and art. But hey, I'd like to start the show off with your Bitcoin, with a Bitcoin story. What is your Bitcoin story? Is normally what I ask everybody who I speak to. So I kind of want to go back to how you got to your Bitcoin story. So what is the story behind Mitchell before Bitcoin and what we're doing here today? What were you doing professionally, creatively, that sort of stuff?
Yeah. The sort of quick version of it is I have always been in like sort of the startup scene. I knew early on in school I wanted to study entrepreneurship. So I came up to Seattle. I'm actually in Seattle right now. Knew that I wanted to learn how to build companies. I just saw that as a way of, my interests were always shifting. But if I had a skill where I could pursue the thing I'm passionate about through entrepreneurship, through building a company, no matter what thing I'm interested in at that time, that was really appealing to me. And just the idea of like building teams, working with people, producing projects, like just building, right? Building was something that gets me out of bed. So my first job, well, I had lots of jobs. I did landscaping. I bought my first car, lots of manual labor kinds of things. And then after college, my first job was basically like one of the really early social media marketing companies. So, apologies, like I'm part of the problem of, ruining social media. I was in those early days, like figuring out, okay, like how do we use Facebook to get, out to the mommy blogs, and didn't realize maybe everything that it would eventually become. But at the time it was really cool. And we were sort of figuring that stuff out. We were, training bigger companies how to engage with their communities. As more than marketing, I think we took a community-driven approach, which has kind of become a theme for me. So we trained a lot of people like to do their first digital communities and in social media marketing. And then after that, I found my way to this really awesome company called Startup Weekend. Startup Weekend, I still draw on that experience here at Stacks. Startup Weekend was basically like, you could almost think of it like an events company. It was a nonprofit. Every single weekend, what we were doing was helping, at some point, dozens of organizers every single weekend host 54-hour events in their cities to teach people entrepreneurship. So they'd show up on Friday, they pitch an idea. Saturday, they're working all day. Sunday, they do a pitch. And you've actually probably heard of, at least one or two companies that came out of Startup Weekend.
That's amazing. And I think, don't you think that sort of environment, it kind of brings out a different behavior in people or a different mindset. It kind of turns something on in their brains that something over an extended period might not do. That kind of high pressure.
Oh, absolutely. I think that the format was something that we definitely got right with that. You get to feel you have this like one hand, there's this very safe space, right, where you're willing to be innovative and put yourself out there and try something new. On the other, it's a pressure cooker, and you're like, well, we got to move. And there was a lot of like very hands-on coaching through the weekend of, taking people who are maybe doing 9 to 5s and saying them, no, like, don't send an email, don't wait, go walk out of the building and talk to 20 people right now, right? Like go do your customer validation. So that was fun. In a way, I feel like I got to see thousands of startups right in this like really short, 3 or 4 year period. And then Techstars bought Startup Weekend. So Techstars is like, YC, Global Accelerator Network, one of the bigger accelerators in the world. And so that was like, same idea, right? Working with entrepreneurs just at a different stage of their journey. And that was great as well. And then all that while you're starting to see the rise of, crypto, early people. I think this is around 2017, somewhere in there. So definitely not super early, but not late. And I took some time off after Techstars, and I realized, hey, all this cool stuff has happened that I haven't been a part of because I've been really heads down into Techstars world. And one of those things was crypto, and you keep hearing about it. I had friends who were, at least interested or intrigued, and I said, I should know this. I should learn about this. So I took an old computer I had laying around, tried to do Bitcoin mining, which, if you know anything about Bitcoin mining, you know that I immediately failed at that. I didn't really get far. But not too long later, one of my contacts at Startup Weekend came along and said, hey, I'm working on this cool project called Blockstack. And I figured, what's a better way to learn crypto than to work at a crypto company? So that's how I got into everything. By the way, I'm not getting your audio anymore. I wonder if it's just me or.
Peace. There we go.
There we go. You're back.
Peace. Thank you. Sorry about that. This is live. Now you can see this is unedited. This is definitely live.
This is good. This is raw. Well, I'm in the beanbag for this. So, trying to go for the right chill vibes here.
Yeah.
Normally I'd be in my office chair. So it's perfect. Yeah.
I'm actually in my bed. So we're doing really
Oh, even better. Even better.
This is very relaxed. Yeah, so I love that. I love the theme of, and I mean, we were speaking before we came on air about entrepreneurship and how important it is in this environment to learn some sort of entrepreneurship or to change your mindset into some sort of entrepreneurship and to trust in yourself that you are able to do this. Put your hand up. I spoke to also, and it comes up repeatedly in shows that I'm doing. And I think that's because we're living in somewhere between centralized and decentralized. Whatever that space is right now. We learn, So yeah, I think and your story, it's amazing how were you always an entrepreneur? Like I always think, were you the kind of guy who was like at school, I don't know, doing things to make an extra buck somehow or
Definitely. Yeah. I was about to say no because my original trajectory is I really wanted to go into medicine. And I kind of untangled. Yeah, I untangled all that. And I was like, as a young person, you're always trying to learn, like, what's the difference between what I like what I truly love to do and like I'm intrinsically motivated by, and like separating that from what you get positive feedback about from, teachers, parents, friends, whatever. Like teasing those things apart, even as an adult, is hard. So as a kid, I think that I thought I really liked that stuff, but because I was good at it, because I'd get positive feedback. And it wasn't, I woke up one day and I was like, this is not how I want to spend my life. But then looking back, when I made this like epiphany, I guess like my first year of school, I knew I wanted to do entrepreneurship and start companies. Then it was so obvious. Like I had a lawn mowing business as a kid. I was I was doing all the things you could imagine. I had to like buy a car, all these things. So, in hindsight, I'm like, yeah, what were you thinking? You were always going to be building companies, like to the point where we sort of took over my neighborhood and I had to like bring on my friends to work with me on the weekends, push my lawnmower around, bought a lawnmower, bought an edger. I had this little trailer I would drag around. I made business cards. I'm sure like back then I thought I was really cool, but now I'm like, all the moms and dads in the neighborhood were probably like, oh, this is so cute, we should just use him. So yeah.
What is entrepreneurship? Can you put it into a few sentences? Can you?
Yeah. I think for me, like it's really just the ability to make a living doing what you're passionate about. It doesn't have to look like a company. It doesn't have to take any specific form. It doesn't have to mean you've got a company or a nonprofit or this or that. I think and being entrepreneurial can look very different for many different people. Like you could be extremely entrepreneurial inside of a massive company. As long as, like, I would say the baseline is you're passionate about something, you want to do that, and there's a vehicle that supports your life, enabling you to work on that thing. I think that's, if I were to try to boil it down, that's probably it. Yeah. And I'm sure that's not the like dictionary definition, but that's my definition.
God, sometimes the dictionary definitions, I don't know who makes them, but sometimes they're not really good. So I want the real deal telling me what it is. Does that look different in a centralized and decentralized environment?
Ooh, good question. Yeah, probably. From my own experience, it's been different, right? The being an entrepreneur in the context of Blockstack, right? Like, not to be confused with founder. I'm not a founder, but I'm not a founder at Blockstack. I would say the thing that's tough, I think, probably for if your only experience is like a normal startup, centralized type of thing, and then you're coming to it to be a founder or an entrepreneur in a decentralized environment, is you don't get the full control that you get with like probably a normal startup, right? Of course, at a normal startup, you also have investors, people you have to keep happy. In a decentralized environment, there are, there's exponentially more viewpoints to worry about, especially in the context of a crypto project, right? Like all the different token holders and the different parts of community. And when you're building something that's also so general, as with like a protocol in my situation, it's tricky because in a regular startup, typically you have a really hyper focus. You're solving one specific problem and you're trying to create one really clear experience for one person, user type. What we're doing, and there are startups like that all over crypto, right? More like a Zest or like the products on top of a protocol. But for me at the protocol level, that's always been the challenge of, you got to move this part along a little bit, then you got to go back and catch the other parts up, go back, catch the other parts up. And there's this little bit of doing a little bit of everything in the right order. And you don't get to necessarily pick everybody that you're working with. You need to cooperate with anyone and everyone that comes along, because there's this huge community aspect to it. No single party has enough resources to do anything too long on their own. These are all really good things. They're just challenges that, a founder in a regular sort of centralized environment wouldn't normally have dealt with, unless they're like a extremely community oriented brand, which they do exist, but I think it's definitely different.
Yeah. And then just the idea of, when you're an entrepreneur, that doesn't mean you're bringing a bunch of people together to be a founder, because I think there's also some blurry lines for people, or to understand the fact that you can be an entrepreneur on your own and do your own thing you can be a sole proprietor anyway, really. But I mean, I think that entrepreneurial spirit lives in a far greater way in a decentralized environment like Stacks, where you can just put your foot forward, put your hand up, and move into situations, almost creating your own opportunity. And that's why when I think we were talking about that just now as well, with when we did the D grants, one of the things that stood out for us was the proof of work program that we did after the D grants, and how it was so much easier to allocate funds to companies that are already, or people or groups or whatever you want to call them, that had already started building something. They'd kind of gone out, because sometimes an entrepreneur doesn't have, or they don't have to put a big team together and write a business plan.
No, not at all.
So let's talk about
I think it's preferable that they don't, right? I think like a semblance of where you want to go, and kind of what I'd call in the regular world customer validation, right? In our world, it might be customer validation, some form of traction or proof that, hey, you're here for the right reasons. You have other people that are interested in this. The more that people can just quickly get to that stage, the easier it is for core contributors, for people like you, people like me, to lean in and support them, right? Especially because in our space, like, unfortunately, we do have a fair bit of people who have been trained that like grant money is just growing on trees, and they hop from one ecosystem to the next and try to like extract that value and move on. It's not super common. But I think you have to have controls for that kind of thing. And what I've noticed, most of the kind of really well-respected foundations in our space doing is they've moved a lot of their grant programs to retroactive grants. So I think that's kind of a similar idea to what you're getting at here is, hey, like, it's great if you have an idea and like someone can give you money up front to do it, especially if it's something that's really expensive to build. But generally, even the most complicated ideas, you can get somewhere on very, very little. Like, you're not having to pay somebody. And so you can get this, like, whether it's an MVP or, proof of interest or traction or whatever it is, you can get that started without needing, a $200,000 grant. And then once you come forward with, hey, this is what I've done, I've almost never seen somebody get shot down of like, oh, well, we're not interested. There's no way we can possibly support that. If anything, it's like they'll end up, say, at the foundation and say, hey, like, this isn't a fit for anything I have going on right now, but let me kind of concierge you through the ecosystem, or let me introduce you to investors, or, in some cases it's exchanges, or whatever the next thing is to take that next step. Because there's sort of that like primordial entrepreneurial soup of like, I have an idea and I think it's good. I can't do much for you when you're in that stage. Nobody can, right? Yeah. Like very, very few, we could sit down and try to like talk through it, and I could ask you a lot of questions, but until you've crystallized it into something that you're really like wanting to move ahead with, it's harder for an ecosystem that is trying to scale to support you. And so as soon as you can get to that stage of like, this is what it is, this is the problem it solves, this is who's interested, those ideas tend to move forward really quickly. And that's kind of like, that's really similar to the real world too, right? Like, you're not going to walk into a pitch meeting or like an investor club or whatever it is where you're trying to raise money and not have a really clear sense of all those things. And so I think like we can honestly borrow that template, do the pitch deck, do the early customer validation. And there's a lot of opportunity. I think you said it well, like, it is just a mindset. And this doesn't mean that you have to, take on building an entire company to contribute or to be entrepreneurial. There are a ton of great apps in the ecosystem that people have built on the side just for fun, that I think they have a strong future.
Shout out to Rozar, because Rozar keeps, he's not stopped in all the years that I've known him and seen him work. It's just like, I'm just going to keep creating, because another thing, which
fail fast is what they say. Fail fast is like kind of a motto from the Techstars days, right? Just keep, not to say Rozar's failing, he's doing great. I'm saying like, he's really good at the cadence of consistently looking at the next thing and getting something out the door, seeing if it works, then moving on to the next thing. It's faster to just keep doing it, like doing a few things wrong and getting to the right answer, than to try to like intuit or, snipe the right answer from the very beginning. You're probably not going to be able to do it anyway. And like, everything you learn in the process of just getting started is always more than you think it'll be.
Yeah. And I think important as well is, it's not just about a good idea. So, you can't just have a good idea and then be kind of upset if that idea doesn't go anywhere. I think sometimes the action is more important than the idea, because, and that's another thing I feel like we learned in D grants. We had people come in that might not have had a great idea. Well, a great idea, but needed a bit of massaging.
Sure.
But they pivoted during that process, rather than saying like, this is my idea and I'm going to live with and die with this idea. So I think I heard something when I was much, much younger. A CEO of a very big company, I really admired him. And he said to me, I said to him, what is the secret of entrepreneurship? And he said to me, to have hunger, pride, and passion. If you have hunger, pride, and passion, you can, and I've never forgotten that. I'm always like, let me not stop having those three things as I get on and move through my life. So
yeah, I totally agree. I think being willing to pivot as well is a big secret, right? Where, hey, you got to come into something and say it's okay to have what you think is a really crystal clear version of what you're going to be building. Like, that's vision, right? But also being willing to say, okay, well, this other opportunity has presented itself and we can solve the problem I was passionate about solving in a way it's maybe 15% different than what I thought, or maybe it's like a whole 180, right? A lot of the best companies have set out thinking, okay, we're going to solve this problem this way, and they still solve that problem. They just did it in a very different way. And I think if I were to add something to that list, definitely humility, because hunger and passion won't get you really far. But if you're not genuinely listening to experts, listening to your users, to your investors, and knowing how to calibrate how much to listen and how much not to listen, that's the secret of a good entrepreneur. Because you're going to get investors telling you all kinds of things that sound really smart, but you're the only one that knows your business, and you have to make difficult choices about what to enact and what to ignore. So I've seen a lot of really good founders in their early companies basically take too much investor advice, and they think they're doing the right thing, right? They're these really smart people. You brought them in for a reason. You got to listen to them. And then, the investor has one perspective. As a founder, as an entrepreneur, as a leader of the people on your team, you have a completely different one. And a lot of times you have to trust that, and it can be hard. So humility with also a dose of knowing when to stick to your guns. It's sort of a really, definitely more art than science.
You've got to I'm just thinking here, we're busy making like entrepreneur soup. We're like all the things that are going to go into this entrepreneur soup. And we're going to eat that for lunch. All right. So I think, this is such a fascinating topic, and something I would love to keep talking about. But I think I also just want to move into kind of your journey through Stacks, because that's also been very interesting, right? So you've been around since the Blockstack days, right?
That's right. Early 2018, Q1 2018, somewhere in there.
OG.
Yeah, there's still, it's great. I think a good indicator of any company or project is how many people are still around from the early days. Like, you would think, oh, I'm like one of the last people standing. No, I mean, it seems like more than 50-60% of the earliest people that were on the team with me then are somewhere in the ecosystem, right? Not necessarily all on the same team anymore, but they're around, they're working on projects. We've got Larry out in Hong Kong. We've got Ken at Xverse. We've got, Gina and Munib are still at Trust Machines, and Jude and Jesse, both are all still here. So say again.
Shannon. Sorry.
No, so I mean, all these fantastic, talented people have stuck around. I think that says a lot about a project and the people too. So, but yeah, definitely it's been a while. Definitely on the previous topic of entrepreneurship, I normally have like a kind of 3-year clock, maybe 3, sometimes 4, where I get that itch again of like, okay, I'm ready to start something new. Luckily, within, to your point earlier, like within Stacks, there's just so much opportunity that even though I've been at one project for that long, it hasn't felt like I've done the same thing the whole time, not like by any stretch. So there's still been those refreshes of sinking your teeth into new stuff, solving new problems, booting up new programs, which feels very entrepreneurial, new event types, so there's no shortage of scratching that itch, which is nice because what we're doing is so vast. But yeah, it's been a while.
That is crazy exciting times, isn't it? To think that you've been able to almost change your career within the same environment over a course, the course of the time that you've been here.
Yeah, I'm super grateful. Yeah,
so incredible. You building the future. I find that so exciting. That these
me too.
people
Well, we're trying. Yeah, I think like even the whole point of entrepreneurship is you got to try, right? So as you feel good doing everything you can to make something work, and then you let the rest, you let the chips fall where they may. And I think Stacks is in a really good place, of course. So I'm grateful. Yeah, you said it, like the opportunity to kind of shift your career and learn new things all the time. I think that's like probably a trait that's really common in entrepreneurs, is just really wanting to learn all the time. There's this like thirst for newness and like novelty and like new emerging things that you want to learn. Like for me, it's like I'm a kind of a tool junkie, right? Like I love to, whenever there's like product hunts, one of my favorite websites, there's something new coming out, I want to figure out a way to try it and learn it and think about why they built it, and is there something that it can support and help us out with at Stacks, or what's our version of that? So
what do you mean, like digital tools or like?
Yeah. So
okay.
Yeah, definitely. Like lately, right, I think it's been a rush of AI related stuff. It's like how can we use the tools, sometimes like the tools we're already using, like Notion, right? Like, are we using all the features? Or if there's a new release, Notebook LM has been one I've been trying to play around with and say, how can I get the most out of this? And so you're learning all the time. And I've found that even, projects that I think are completely unrelated, like Unmuteable, which you mentioned, in the course of putting that together, that was just for fun for me. I did it on my own time. I thought it was interesting. I really have a passion for that space. And it forced me to learn all these new things that were available in this other sort of realm. And a handful of those things then came in useful in the Stack side. And you never know what those things are going to be. So I think it's important to, always trying to get not too much in a rut on one thing, because it might feel like you're distracted. You're doing something that's not related or that's not a good use of time. But for me, at least, it's almost always like that has then enhanced my ability to do whatever my day job is. And also, keeps your cup full on the personal side. So
yeah, and it goes into your, I felt when I sort of pivoted and I just changed everything in my real life so that I could do this permanently and learn this permanently and go down this. You see, I did what you did earlier. It's fatigue. It's fatigue.
It's okay.
What am I even talking about? Oh my God. 10 stars for interviewing. I don't even know. But, anyway. So let me change the topic so I look like I know what I'm talking about. Sorry, Mitchell.
That's okay. I don't think anyone would have noticed. You just roll with it. That's the secret. Yeah. But no, I think you and I both agree. Like if and when you have the opportunity to kind of like, even if it's just 5%, whatever you're comfortable with, stretch yourself in a new direction or try a new thing, even if it's inside of this like role that you're already doing, do it, right? Like it'll probably come around and be useful. And if not, at least you don't have to wonder. You probably got like a little personal gratification for it, which then in turn makes you a better leader, better founder, whatever. So
yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's like everything that it was, I didn't realize at the time that everything I was doing during the course of my life, because I've also pivoted a lot, sort of in entrepreneurial way during the course of my life. But I realized that it had all brought me to this exact moment, to be here right now, even though those things seemed disjointed at the time. And I think even when you were talking about your early story as well, you kind of studied this, then you did a bit of that, and you ended up in community that became a seed of what you were doing in your life, So and
certainly
you
didn't set out. You just
doctor,
Yeah, no, you just kind of find your way. Like I think people have this idea that they want to be the person who can say, okay, like I have a vision for my life and I'm gonna do it and step by step. And I think that's good, goal setting and like finding a path to what you want to be doing if you're really crystal clear on something. But I think more often than not, you have a general direction that you want to go, and then you figure it out along the way. And that's way more fruitful and fun anyway. And I think more realistic. I think it's very rare a person who knows, they're born knowing what they want to do the whole time, and then they have a straight shot to doing it. I haven't met anybody like that yet, but I'm sure they're out there somewhere.
Yeah, they exist. Okay, so you sort of came into Blockstack. I think you came into Blockstack. What was it like? I'm always interested to know. I mean, this was kind of like totally just, what are we doing?
Yeah. I have a good story if you want to hear about my first day on the job.
Yes.
At Blockstack. Sorry, Shannon. Shannon's gonna kill me for telling the story a little bit here, but no, it's great. So my first day was, well, I'll back up. So I told you how I got into Blockstack briefly. There's an old connection of mine from Startup Weekend who just said, hey, Mitchell, like I'm working on this cool project. I'm like helping them out. They need stuff that you do. I said, okay, I'm happy to talk with them. I don't know what that means, but like, sure, I'm interested. And so I started basically just sort of like very part-time marketing kind of partner, advisor, whatever. It's doing some social work for them. It was super, super early. So like none of this stuff was like really well figured out, but they knew even back then the community aspect of crypto is incredibly important. We want to have something going on here. At Startup Weekend was super relevant to what they were going to be doing. So anyway, but this is all like, it's squishy. And so I hadn't heard back for like maybe a week or two. And I get a call from my contact, and he was like, hey, can you be in Berlin in 2 days? We're doing a Blockstack conference there. And I was like, well,
where were you at this time? In Seattle?
Yeah, I was in Seattle.
Yeah. Okay, so it's not like you're going to get a train there.
No. And, luckily luckily what I was doing that time was I was just doing some freelance stuff for some, friends of friends and contacts and stuff, because I had wrapped up at Techstars. Anyway, it's like, I guess so. I guess I can be. So I fly over there and I land. And what I didn't know at the time was that my lead, who had brought me in, basically like missed a flight, or there was some issue at the flight. It got rerouted. I don't remember the details, but I land and I walk into the venue where this event is happening. It's just like maybe an hour before. It's just like the earliest flight I could get. And I walk in, and a few people are there. Zan, Shannon, I think Patrick from Freehold. They're like standing at the entrance, sort of like greeting people as they come in. And nobody knew who I was. It was like, hey, how's it going? And they're trying to like direct me to my seat or something, right? And I'm like, well, so actually I'm like with so-and-so, like, what can I do to help? And they're like, what the heck? Like, where have you been? Like, where is so-and-so? Like, the hackathon, is it ready? And like, Shannon was like, just, she didn't yell. Shannon, I'm doing you right by this story. But she was like, okay, now that she saw, hey, this person's here, she thought that I had all the hackathon details planned. That was really the other guy, right? So, and I think she felt really bad. She's apologized like 10 times since then. I've told her this, and this is true. I walked away from that being like, I really like these people. Like, they're intense. They really care about what they're delivering. They're willing to hold people accountable. In this case, they got the wrong person, but like, that's okay. I can like, in the heat of whatever you're doing, like, super respectful. They handled it in completely the right way, but you could sense the intensity. And I like, that moment is the exact moment as I turned around and said, I'm going to make this happen for you, because we figured his flight was lost. And like, so my other friend and I put a hackathon together in Germany in like 12 hours and got everything done. I'm like, installing like German food delivery apps on my phone, but we pulled off a great hackathon. Lots of people showed up. Maybe there's some people that in the community that still remember that hackathon. This is a good time, very entrepreneurial. Just like, cool. I'm in a foreign country and now I have a hackathon to put together. Luckily, we've done a lot of that stuff at Startup Weekend, so it's relatively easy. I had the format; we could just kind of do it. But yeah, I think you can get a sense pretty quickly when you're working with someone on something that they clearly care about. You just know, you can pick up on it. It's just silly to say, but like, it's a vibe thing. And I was like, all these people are fully bought in. All these people care very deeply. There must be something more to this project, because I was very cursory at that time, right? I was like, this is cool. I'm exploring. And that's when I was like, I got to get in on this. Let's do it. And I think a week later we were talking about, okay, well, what could I do full time here? So.
That is incredible. Did you stay in Berlin at that point, or was it?
No. We were just doing an event there. So after the event, everyone went home to their places. I came back to Seattle, and at the time, early Blockstack days, a lot of folks there was like a much stronger New York nexus. So there was an office, and I'd go out there every month or so to the office to spend time. But a lot of people were there. So yeah, great people. Like I said, a lot of those people are still around. So they did a really great job. Gina, if you've met her, like, she is a big part of early hiring in Blockstack. So
yeah, I'd love to have Gina on the show. Gina, this is my personal message to you. I'd love to talk to you on the show. So, okay. And then how did your kind of journey transition to where you are now?
Well, I can do a lot of fast forwarding. So Blockstack, basically went all the way up to the point of essentially the Stacks like mainnet launch. And it was at that point, downstream of the Reg A and all those things, where we were like, all right, we're decentralizing, right? And so initially I stayed with Blockstack, and pretty quickly, as it became Hero, we all learned together that most of the things that I do really weren't appropriate for Hero to be doing. They didn't really fit in that tight definition of developer tools that Hero is now known for, and it's like committed to being. And then the foundation became the next natural fit, right? The foundation's been sort of the liaison for the community, for the grants programs. Like, really, I see us as like a connector and a starter of things until those things have permanent homes or until they mature. And that's, to me, that felt the most entrepreneurial as well. And it just kept the lines between the companies really clear. But, we've never stopped collaborating with each other. And on one level, we're one big team. On another, we're obviously clearly distinct. So, and then let's see, that brings us to the foundation days, and then I think even within the foundation days, the needs of the community, the needs of the ecosystem, the technology, all that's not a permanent thing either. That's always a moving target. Right? So where we focus as a team, we try to take a lot of different inputs from a lot of different places and make sure that we're always aligned to the biggest unlock for the ecosystem. whether that's popular or not, and deliver that, and then figure out the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And then I think we're actually like, it's good timing that we're chatting now, because I actually think that we're starting a new chapter as well. Like not the foundation specifically, although we likely will too in response. But with SIP 31 passing this week, this is going to be an era that I think is defined by growth. And I would argue we've been an ecosystem that's very defined by technology. And that was the right thing to do for a long time. We get that right, get the table stakes out, and now we get to transition to where I think the apps that are built on stacks are going to be the front and center heroes of the story. And I'm excited to do that, because that looks a lot like an accelerator almost, right? Where you're like, any job where I get to help founders is exciting. And so I see a path for me to be able to do more of that, or the ecosystem to do more of that. And so I think that's what'll define our next era. And I'm particularly excited about it, because it feels like, as cool and interesting and all of that as the protocol is, I think we're all here to see people actually using crypto. And so like, it feels like we're taking another big step toward impacting people's day-to-day lives at some increased scale. So.
Yeah. I think, Bitcoin first kind of community, and a community that wants to see Bitcoin as something that people do something with, so, and I think being in this community myself as well, not nearly as long as you, but, it's been, 4 odd years now, and since 2021. Yeah. But
I think after like 18 months, it's kind of all the same. You've been like, if you've been here 18 plus months, you might as well
like
have been
20
here
years in the real life.
So you get equal footing.
Dog years. Okay, we counting crypto in dog years.
Absolutely.
But I think just to see the community members stick it out through the ups and downs of the last 4 years, because it hasn't been linear. There's been up and down, good times, bad times, and I think that's one of the real standout things about this ecosystem, is that we know that the technology is tried and tested. It's brilliant. It wasn't just a, hey, let's throw a whole lot of money at this and then go out and make. So I love the way that this has happened. Every now and then I have felt frustration. I think every one of us do at some point. It's human. We're not. But at the same time, every time you kind of get over that, and you realize that you have to put down these foundations that are super solid, then build the house around it, and then furnish it, and that's kind of where, and then invite people over, so you don't lay your foundations and then throw a dinner party. So I think
a rave, maybe, right? Like sort of a underground sort of thing.
Yeah. Okay.
You could have a party under the I don't know. You could do something, but it wouldn't be totally safe.
Okay, I can see you and me could make a party out of anything, but generally, Mitchell, people would want to put some walls and windows before they invited guests over. And I think that's kind of, in a way, an analogy for me, the way I look at what's happened here, those foundations, where people feel like they're not going to break when they walk through them, and everything's going to go tits up. So that's what I love so much about the Stacks ecosystem. And in as much as myself, who is in the community, who is in marketing, who's passionate about music and NFTs, going like, why don't we have NFTs? What's going on? Mm-hmm. I know logically why. We need to first have, all the things we can talk about for ages. But very true. Tell me, what is an interim executive director? What does your day look like? What are you doing on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, I'll definitely
I guess
and jump into that. It's always an adventure for sure. I was going to say on your last point, though, I think the thing that I struggle with, that I've tried to become better at in the last few years, but I think it's going to be an ongoing battle just with my nature, is it's never enough fast enough. And so I think like that's a good attitude to have as a builder and as a community member, as an entrepreneur, founder, like whatever. It's very useful, and if you channel that in the right direction, it's great. But one thing, this exercise that I've done every quarter is for a long time, we sit down and we write we collect all the things in a newsletter that have happened in the past quarter. And when you remember to zoom out like 3 months, 6 months, every once in a while and realize, wow, okay, how much has been done? Like 6 months ago, SBTC just came out, which feels weird to say, and I've tried to, it's not that I would say to anyone, relax or calm down or slow down or none of that. It's more of, for your own self, for your own mental health, as you're building something or whatever you're building, it's never going to feel fast enough. It's never going to feel like you're doing enough. But it is, in the startup weekend days, the Techstars days, the biggest struggle we had with founders was, co-founders, that's number one. But number two was reminding them that it's a marathon, not a sprint, and that you need to sprint at times, but you also have to take care of yourself, because to build any project of scale, yes, you do have to sprint and get things done fast, but you also have to survive, and you have to be around for a while, multiple years, if you want to have the kind of impact that you want to have. So figuring out that sweet spot, and like for me, it's just reminding ourselves that, like, even though it never feels quite like you're done, or that you're getting, the to-do list is getting smaller, when you look back in reverse, you're like, okay, a lot of really cool stuff has happened. We're doing all right. Anyway, I think that's the message that I want all founders to have. We talked so much about entrepreneurship today. It's like, don't like stretch yourself, find your limits. Like I'm all for that. But once you lock in on the project that you care about for yourself and for your team, remember to try to have a little bit of that balance and zoom out once in a while too, because otherwise you'll take the joy out of it. So
yeah. Well, it's like with anything. I mean, well, not with anything. That's too much of a broad generalization, but it's that ebb and flow. Breathe in, breathe out. Take those moments to, you're not just breathing out the whole time, because then you're going to die. So
don't do that.
Don't do that. Not health advice. I'm not a doctor, but I think you need to sleep. And I find with myself, some of my best ideas when I'm writing is when I wake up in the morning and I'm rested. There's no clutter in my head, and I can just rest. I think that is when you're trying to think like, I got to get it out. So yes, like you said, sprint, good. Like when I do those sprints in the morning, my writing sprints, it's just.
No, the mind is very mysterious. Like we had the July 4th holiday in the States, and first like full day off in a while for me, and I didn't think about work at all. Came back, Monday, Tuesday, whatever it was, and I had all these like kind of refreshed ideas or different looks at things, or things that clicked, that the bigger picture things, especially. So if you're a founder, it's easy to get like really mired in the day to day and all the weeds of everything. And that's good. You got to be there. You got to be on the front lines. But if you're not a person who can just naturally pull yourself up to that strategic level, at the drop of a hat, I've very, very few people who can. Taking the space, whatever that space looks like for you, doesn't mean you need to take a month off. It can just mean like a day where you're not looking at emails and having a bunch of meetings. A lot of the big picture stuff could click for you. You asked the question about my day to day. Do you still want to know?
Yeah.
Okay.
You and me, I think we might do another hour.
No, unfortunately I can't quite say
that.
No,
we can't. And Peace as well. He's got a hard stop, and I've got.
Okay, good. Well,
no, we can't. We've got to. But
I wish he was like talking in my ear, giving me like statistics and stuff like on those cool sports podcasts. But
I know.
anyway, peace.
I
Next
want
time.
to have that one day, or like how Joe Rogan goes. Sometimes I think sometimes I'm just going to say that, when he goes next time for sure. When I don't know what the Joe Rogan's producer is called, but he'll be like, "Oh, bring that up on the big screen." I think I'm just going to start saying that. Oh,
There we go.
young Jamie. I'm just going to give his name and have my own producer. Listen, one day you'll see me, guys. I will have a producer.
Love it.
Yes. What does an interim executive director do?
Yeah. So, the cliche answer is it's a little different every day, but I think, first and foremost, like I obviously have a team to take care of and think about. But I think of my team as not just the people that are on the actual foundation team, but really the whole ecosystem. And I think in the last year or so since I've had the role has become very much like a coordinator for collaboration, and bringing folks like Trust Machines and Hero and Freehold and Mechanism, all Zest, Bitflow, all the different teams and founders of those teams and leaders together around strategic things. It doesn't mean that we're meeting every single day, but you'll see things like the Stacks DeFi working group, where we've got a dedicated group of people working on a specific set of problems. For me, it's a lot of, are the right conversations happening in the right places with the right people? And that's a moving target. So that makes it fun, but also tricky. I do also spend a lot of time on partnerships. And so a lot of the integrations that you see and the comms that go with them, and sort of all the stuff that happens behind the curtain before we're able to talk about the partners, our team works a lot on that with amazing other contributors from the ecosystem, like Rena and Andre and Jonas, who all contribute as part of the BD working group. So I'll be on calls for those kinds of things. I have one-on-ones. I have, we have like obviously like our internal company stuff. Like we're pretty like lean, right? Because most of our team spends all of our time out in the ecosystem. I kind of think of it like a bit of a hub and a spoke, where you've got like, okay, Rick is out there in amplification and marketing world, and he's the connective tissue for all these different efforts and people that are going on, and we're just trying to like support them the best that we can. You've got Shannon and Ileana who are out, and they're all directly connected to not only all of our partners like in the ecosystem, but then people who are sponsoring events and the people who run the venues, and right. So then we interface and make sure, okay, are all the right people have all the founders been invited? Have all of the like leadership teams from these different organizations that are helping contribute, has everyone seen this? Are we on the same page? Like, do we have an agreed upon sort of like content calendar that's coming up? And it's always a balance too of like which of that is coordinated and should be coordinated, and which of that should remain independent, right? And which shouldn't. Which will be shifting a little bit with the new post SIP and all that. So we get to kind of figure all that out and see how we can streamline some of that with the new tools that we're going to have. But yeah, I day-to-day wise, just to like really put a button on your question, definitely a lot of meetings, which is awesome. Like I actually like don't work with anyone I don't like, which I think is really, really rare, and I'm really grateful for, right? It's like I think a lot of people in their lives have some like working with people that they don't like. I think that's a huge drag on your energy. Not to say I'm best friends with everybody either, right? But everyone is here for the right reasons.
Yeah.
There's mutual respect. People are passionate about things, and that goes a long way with me. Like if you're excited about something and you're willing to listen, or you're curious and you care and you're doing something, that's all anyone can ask. So we also run a lot of programs as well. So there's sort of this cadence of like Code for Stacks I mentioned when we were talking in the green room. We wrap that up around the 15th of every month, where we've got thousands of submissions that come in from these developers who are working on their projects. And we go through a cycle where all those are reviewed. Then they move into a drawing, right? Then we move into paying them out, anyone who's won. And we've recently started this thing where for the developers who are really shipping consistently, we're also tracking their streak. So if they've submitted like May, June, July, they're eligible for a prize. And so we've built this whole app in Notion to like take care of these folks and reward them. And so you have a few of those with like quarterly almost hackathons, the meetups, the town halls, where you have a cadence for all these events and like community engagement points as well. And then of course, whenever I can get time, as much writing as I can do, especially like my writing volume goes up around things like SIPs or launches or, bigger partnerships and stuff that, yeah. So it's a really good, like diverse set of things that you get to do for sure.
Yeah. That takes
and
a special
stuff like this, which is really fun.
That takes a special kind of person. That is for sure, to handle,
I don't know.
That's a lot of balls. That's like, woo, woo, juggle. Hey? But cool.
I wouldn't have it any other way, though. I'd probably be bored.
Yeah, that's why you're not bored. So it's a win.
Yeah. Thank you.
You mentioned the SIP, right? Let's talk about the SIP.
Yeah.
I think most people who are listening, they know what's been going on in the ecosystem for the last couple of weeks, but very excited because is it official now? Because I know with kind of the numbers were there to pass it, but I think it was a day or two the last time I heard where it was, okay, we're officially done. It's passed. We can now start the ball rolling.
Yeah. So the vote wrapped up Monday. So we have the blog post up now. We always try to take a day or two to really audit the results, make sure it's there, because it's, in theory, it's really simple. It's an on-chain vote. It's yes or no. But sometimes people mess up and they accidentally vote no first and then they vote yes later. Right? So it's the last vote. You got to make sure you do the snapshot at the right time, like what the balances are. So there's always just a little bit of making sure everything was counted according to how it should be. And then of course people can cast their votes via Bitcoin, which we had a couple people do. And so the last couple of days have been auditing, which means we've published the results. So those are final. And then I believe Hero Gamer, I'm gonna apologize, I'll probably get this wrong. I think there's one final step with the SIP itself as to ratification. But in terms of like all the important parts and the SIP is passed, so we're moving forward. We've started to
congratulations.
Yeah. Well, congratulations to you. I mean, it's I was an author, but this is going to sound cheesy. I'm really into this band right now called Sleep Token, and their lead singer, they're all anonymous. They've been unmasked, but the singers, they're all just vessel 1, vessel 2, vessel 3, because they're like, we're just a vessel for the music. In a very tiny shred version of that, like I feel like the authors of the SIP were kind of just a vessel for solving a lot of the things builders had issues for a while, and just putting words to all the things we know can make the ecosystem better. So I appreciate the congratulations, but I think it's really for us all, and I just helped write part of it. So
I think you did. I think the involvement in that and the foresight and the knowledge, obviously you've been here for a long time, so you have that. You I think probably got a clearer vision than most of what the ecosystem, where it's been and where it needs to go. I think having the community and inviting the community, that's what I really loved about it. And then kind of filtering what the community's saying, because decentralized also doesn't mean everybody's idea has to happen. So there's a little bit of stress, I think, or challenge rather, should we say, around that as well, and saying because the community, on the forum there was a lot going on, and you managing the behind the scenes as well when it came to the appointment committee and getting that right, because that was also community voted. So a lot going on.
It's all really good, fun, important stuff. I think I was thinking about this yesterday actually, and I will study other ecosystems to see, like, are there things that we should be doing better that we can learn from, whatever. We have friends at other foundations and so forth. I think that the hardest part of like a SIP, or just like really more generally like the role that I or the foundation play, is you never want to be the person who's like, I know what's best for you, right? Like that's right. At the same time, there's that what you're saying of like, I'm in this every day in a very focused way, and we also have all these different experts across the ecosystem, whether they're on my team or another team or in the community, and figuring out what's signal and what's noise, because sometimes the like prevailing sentiment in the community, it's not that it's wrong, it's just not quite right. And you kind of want to like help them see that without saying like, I know better than you because I do this every day. That's not necessarily true either. So like figuring out how to just, and usually it's as simple as like, let's get everyone on a spaces and talk it through. And like even a single voice, wherever that single voice is coming from, can convince an entire group that was maybe over here to come over here. And it's usually not so stark as that, right? It's like, it's usually just like it's implementation details and we like kind of agree on the big picture. But there is that like, I think that it's especially in crypto and not even like the core community, but I'd say like just holders who are kind of out in the ether, they can be really loud too. And I don't think we as a community would want to listen to that group above our own core community. And so like separating those things out, because they have different motivations, right? Like traders have entirely different motivations than the people that are here building. And those motivations aren't wrong. They're just different. And knowing sort of which groups to listen to about which topics and when is pretty much what this all boils down to. Because otherwise you risk just thinking that you know every aspect of the ecosystem. You try to, but then you also have to know when to trust yourself and like make a difficult decision that, hey, we're not going to do that for 6 months so that we can get this done, even though people are going to be mad at me. Those are always like the trickiest ones, but I think we're not shooting 100%, but we're doing all right. I think a lot of people in the ecosystem are doing a great job, right? If you've been here, you've been through a bear market, like you know what it's like, right? Every cycle, there's this sort of like a little bit of panic and like everything's wrong and the whole thing is breaking down and collapsing under us. And then you hit a bull cycle and like it's a little more chill again for a while. And so if you've weathered those storms and you can stay like sufficiently short-term thinking to stay opportunistic, but also sufficiently long-term thinking so that you're not shooting yourself in the foot in the short term at the expense of the long term, so like I said earlier, it's more art than science, but we're all kind of figuring it out together. And thankfully we have a community who can help in those areas. Like to me, it's a great peace of mind that I can reach out to any number of people or hop on a spaces and say, man, like this is what we're trying to figure out. Like big portions of the SIP were basically like for fill in the blank for the conversations that we later had of like, okay, we know we need something here. We don't know exactly what that should look like. And then the dialogue kind of delivered us the answer. So it's also, as much as it's like, you got to be careful, it's also a safety net for us that we're never going to get too far down a bad path because we have like all these different people who can kind of chime in.
And that's kind of one of the things I do love about, this decentralized environment. That word has been used so many times that it's starting to drive me nuts. Like every time I start saying it, I'm like, please, there's got to be another word. Like Peace always says, it's deorganized. Okay. But I keep thinking that we've got to think of a new word. It's got to be somewhere between decentralized and centralized, because those two things are poles apart. So we need to think of a middle word. That's like where I'm at the moment. Okay, that's
maybe it comes to me in the shower or something, but yeah, I'm with you. I get it. It's like
the challenge.
What is it? Decentralized doesn't even mean anything anymore, right? It's like people use it so much in so many different ways, and like also use it as a marketing tactic, like where we're decentralized. And you're like, hey, you're not. Like
that's the thing. It's just it's a word that makes to me no more sense anymore. It's like, what even is that? Because half the things aren't even decentralized. And so what? If you look at, if you go back to 2008 and you think, or 2009, and you're like, okay, what was the climate there when the white paper was written? And then you zoom forward nearly, 20 years forward, and you look at the environment that we live in now. That's two completely different environments. So then decentralized was like the most important thing in the world, because everybody lived literally captive. You had, state news put in your face, and whatever. Whereas now we kind of live in a bit of a decentralized world,
Sure.
Anyway, so yeah, that is our challenge.
Yeah, I was
What
watching
is
a video about sort of the death of mainstream, right? Like there's some people believe there's like a decline in monoculture. So we have fewer things that we're all aware of, that we all relate to in terms of like the media that we consume. And so I think you're right. There's some level of, as a person, potentially you're becoming more decentralized because algorithms are getting more specific to you and like more tailored. Your experience on the internet is not like anyone else's, like more and more. And so on one hand, that can be really cool, right? Like you could be into really deep niches more easily. On the other, there's less common ground or connective tissue between people. So there's, a word in the middle would be great, both for like sort of the cultural media side of things, but also just for crypto projects, because I think we all exist somewhere between on the spectrum.
That's what we've got to be. We've got to take ownership of that on Stacks. We aren't decentralized and we aren't centralized. We are Bitcoin needs sized, whatever it is.
And it's like it's exactly, we, not to bring everything back to the SIP, but it's sort of exactly what the SIP is, fundamentally trying to accomplish, because what we've learned over the years is, to your point, we want to be decentralized in the ways that matter and in the places that are critical to be. So like at the technology layer for sure, and maybe some others. But that doesn't mean you have to be decentralized everywhere, and it might not be to your advantage to be decentralized everywhere. And so trying to balance the two, where you get the appropriate decentralization in the appropriate places with the benefits of centralization. I don't even like to call it centralization, but consolidation or streamlining or whatever you want to call it, in the others where that's okay. Why wouldn't you want it, right? It's like, as an entrepreneur or founder, you're going to try to put your team in the best position to succeed, give them the best tools. Sometimes those tools are entities, right? Like nonprofits or organization, companies, or whatever the vehicle becomes. Like you can think of those as tools. So yeah, I'm with you. It's a squishy middle ground.
With my personal experience coming into Stacks, I knew when, I came here because, as you know, music, art, looking for a better way for artists and musicians to kind of have ownership of their music, blah, 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 blah. And so I came in, guns blazing, like, yes, I am here. I've been running a music business for all these years. I'm going to change the world. Hello, Bitcoin. And it was like, oh, where do I go? Who do I apply to tell them my great ideas? And there was nobody. And I didn't know where to go. I was just kind of this lost, like floating in this ocean. And I kind of at that point learned, well, the only way I can do this is just start working on social media and meeting people, at some point getting to know. But at the same time, I realized a little while later that there was this idea that decentralization means we all kind of do our own thing. But you also don't want to do that. You don't want to be stuck in little pods all over the place, all like buzzing around lost. And that's where the other side of the coin it is important, So
yeah, decentralization doesn't mean disconnected or disorganized.
Yeah.
It's intended to be an advantage, right? It's like a cooperative. Like many people can be doing the same mission from a different lens, different point of view. And I think like there have been times where the ecosystem has Yeah, we've gone through growing pains on that for sure. Like there's times when we've been better at it. I think generally like improving over time, but you said earlier, like it ebbs and flows as you try to figure it out. And then there's always that adjustment period when priorities shift, or like we learn something new, or there's a launch and now SBTC exists and everyone has to figure out, okay, what does that mean? What does that mean now? Where do I go? I'm with you though too. I think you're not the only one. Like sorry, say again.
No, I interrupted you. Sorry, I'm a terrible interrupter.
No, don't worry about it. It's good. I like the popcorn kind of conversation. The thing I have always felt in this space, because I also got into it for similar reasons. Eventually, I'd like to see crypto be the vehicle that fixes music. Like what I see is like a broken kind of industry, especially around streaming and all that. Someday, right? And when I got into crypto, I just had this big assumption that we were, I guess, further along than we really are. And that's not a bad thing, but that's always the old adage of like, you're still early. It's true. Like we're rebuilding pipes and stuff still, right? Like to your metaphor about the house, like we're in certain rooms, we're still at the foundation level. So it makes sense that when somebody...
We're still talking to the architect, man. We haven't even... We're still talking to the architect half the time. We haven't even put that first spade in the ground with a lot of this stuff. Some of us...
No, it's time for us to... No, that's the thing, is you think you're there, and we definitely need to accelerate and get there soon and start impacting people's lives. But I think it makes sense that that's your experience, where you're like not quite sure where to go because that place probably doesn't exist yet. And like you're either going to be the one to make it, or someone will, and then we'll plug in. But I think there's always this feeling, because if you've been in the space a long time, that your brain wants you to think we're in year 50, whereas and we're comparing ourselves often to the internet, right? Like the internet's been around a long time, so it's going to take us a little while. At least we can obviously catch up faster because we can bootstrap from what the internet already provides us. But yeah, that's the thing that I've always had to wrestle with, and why I'm happy to be working on a protocol. But someday I want to be working on an experience that's like direct to the person that is benefiting from it. And I'll probably build it on something like Stacks. And by that point, Stacks will have all the things that I could possibly need to go and serve this, end user.
Yeah. There's a meme or a whatever thing that I saw the other day, and it's like that guy, the cop, his son is like super, like not the smartest tool in the shed, and the picture is of him flying through a window, like somebody's like throwing him in the window, and it says underneath there, my kidnapper's returning me after listening to me talk about Bitcoin for 3 hours. And it's like, stop! And that's kind of how, or if you are afraid that you're too late, just go out to your friend's place and start talking about Bitcoin, and you will very quickly realize that you are definitely not too late, because it for us who are here day in and day out, it does feel so. Anyway, I know we're sort of running deeply over time here. It was just I've really enjoyed sort of speaking to you, but I think the SIP, we are it's just so exciting. There's a lot sort of, I think, from your side that you are obviously going to start shifting forward over the next couple of months, right? People can expect to see and hear more about it. We obviously haven't got time to go into it, but they can go and have a look at Stacks roadmap.
Yeah. I'd say if you're specifically interested in the SIP, like on the Foundation blog, we dropped the results yesterday, and you can there's also a sort of mini roadmap for endowment and the operational entity. So you can kind of see, there's one thing I'd love to like do a quick plug for is like, everyone's going to move as quickly as possible, of course. But also there's like a lot of stuff that has to get figured out. So just anchoring ourselves in realistic expectations. I think the blog post kind of says a lot of the things that need to be done, the hard fork, the registering of entities, setting up of websites and bank accounts, and like all the stuff that goes with endowment and that. So you get a sense of like what we'll be doing the next couple of months, and some of the places where I'd love the community to plug in. The specific ask is like if you have ideas for retroactive grants, retroactive grant programs, the DeFi working group is already kind of plugging away on that. But sort of all years, I think you and I have talked, Mel, like we'd love to bring a new cohort of the Mintery through potentially, like for the art and culture side. There's also talk of, hey, like should we do another round of D grants? I don't know if you're a gamers on, but these are all things that the next couple of months are going to be a good time to have those discussions, get our plans together, get our feet under us, and then we'll be able to be ready to propose it when the endowment and the operational entity are actually ready to move, so that we don't have this like big slow gap or anything. We can sort of be entrepreneurial and get started right away.
Yeah, I think that I'm curious about, and I know we kind of keep going back to the entrepreneurial side of things, but sometimes I feel like, maybe it's like we need to create these little pockets of where we can push people into, and just say, look, start building in that, if you've got skills in that direction. Because what we hear a lot of is people saying like, we need this. I think we discussed this at some point as well. Why don't we have this on Stacks? We need this on Stacks. And then it's not solution driven. It is kind of, so it's almost like we need kind of a solutions driven page where people, just to egg people on in some sort of direction. I don't know, because there is, we've talked about it, there's going to be a lot of moving forward over the next, once the sort of first, I think you said 60 or 90 days are over, we're going to start seeing things happening, right? People are already coming forward with ideas.
Yep. I think my the best piece of advice is use the forum, like write up your ideas, get feedback, show that other people care about this thing. That's like a lot of how we'll be able to judge like what to prioritize. And it'll also help you sharpen the idea and sort of give a lot of people around you an idea of how to best help you and how to direct you. And, a lot of times, I take you asked about my day-to-day. I do spend a lot of time on pitch calls with different people sometimes they're already in the community. Sometimes they're new to the community. They're like, hey, I really want to build this. Like, what do I do? So myself or the team are always happy to hear those pitches and try to direct those people in the right direction. But to your point, there does have to be, I guess, a little bit of a proof point, right? Like we don't have the capacity or the funds to just say, okay, every idea that comes along, here's money. It's got to be, okay, well, show us like what problem you're solving, give us a little bit to go on, and then we'll definitely help you find the resources you need. The people who typically succeed at that stuff are the people who just start building. And if you need help to get started building, reach out, join one of we have lots of programs and courses and things for beginners. Like Code for Stacks is easy to get started with. Stacks Ascent is almost like an incubator where if you've got an idea and you want to build something, we got Adam and Kenny who are like, they'll jump on calls with you. They'll make sure you know all the tools. So engage with one of these areas. So if you have this big idea, but you don't feel quite ready to build it, we can get you to the point where you feel ready to build it. You get started, we pour the gasoline on, so to speak. So people can reach out to me directly if they'd like. I'm always happy to be that like kind of concierge role in the ecosystem. And I also anticipate, to your point, a lot of the teams around the ecosystem hiring in the near future, right? Like I think that the environment is shifting generally, but also, investors are interested in Stacks and Stacks teams. And so in an era of growth, we're going to need a lot of people that focus on growth, and teams need to get bigger and more capable and all those things. So keep a look on the job board as well, I'd say. And get in.
So that is it. I think a great place to go then is just directly, that's what the foundation is there for, right? Is to bring those community members in who do have those questions. Go to the Stacks Discord, reach out to the Stacks Foundation, right? There's going to be those answers there. There's a lot of information on that website. So, and I think also just put your best foot forward, because, if you have been sort of sneaking away in the shadows, it's time for you to come around and run around up and down the streets shouting, because it's, or at least not shouting, but all right. So I think on that we should probably work towards sort of rounding it up.
Sure.
I know Peace has got something to go to, and so have you. So
he probably has five more spaces today, right? He's an animal. It's incredible.
There is one person who I still believe that there are 3 of them, because you can go on to 3 different places.
He's pretty savvy. Maybe he's deep faking us with AI. He's pretty savvy. Maybe he does have a trained up producer clone.
I'm telling you. Oh, I wish. Because if you go on, you'll see Pieces very often on, like, which space should I go, and I'll look at whatever Piece is doing when I want to listen to a space. And I'm like, Piece is speaking in this space. Piece is speaking in this space. Piece is speaking. He's like in 3 spaces. I'm like, what are you doing, Piece? How can there be so many of you? So I know he's just doing such an incredible job. And that is a great thing for us to end off on, actually, is Piece's story, because he came into Stacks. I don't know if you know how this all kicked off, but during the D grants, and he just said, hey, hi, I'm Peace Love Music, and I love what you guys are doing. Can I write a couple of articles for what you're doing with the D grants? And he actually put an application into the D grants for 0 money. He said he just wants to be involved, get to meet the people. How's that for somebody who is entrepreneurial, and in less than a year has grown this into Stacks' go-to media company?
Yep.
So
yeah, that's exactly how it should work.
Yeah. So on that entrepreneurial spirits, there you have it. Peace, love, music. All right. Is there anything that you feel like I've missed out? There's so much more that I wanted to talk to you about. I would love to have you on again for us to talk about arts and culture and music, because it's something that both of you, both of us feel so passionate about. But is there anything else you'd kind of like to add before we sign up?
No, let's say for today, like, I think that's pretty good spot. And then I'll come back. I'd love to kind of catch up on the world of music and crypto and AI a little bit. And I'm kicking it around in the back of my head to do another edition of Unmuteable soon as well. So maybe we can, once I kind of know what that's going to look like, maybe we'll come back and we'll just do a whole chat on that side of things. And there's a lot of fascinating conversations in music right now around AI as well, which is not expressly related to crypto, but I think relevant. I think the two might have pretty strong interplay for how they impact artists. So there's a whole bunch there we could get into. And
I definitely think that when it comes to blockchain and the that's another word I don't like saying, is NFTs. When it comes to
it's a loaded term for whatever reason.
It's just got too many negative connotations for me too. But just with music in this environment, or the progression of music, this is to me the next progression of it. And AI is an additional tool. So it's kind of like the record player and the vinyl, and they come together and they work. Kind of that's where we're at now. But I think it's an amazing conversation. I think with the Mintery and I think with Unmutable, those two can almost even live in some sort of similar way, feed off each other. So I think there's some exciting things there. So
absolutely.
On that note, thank you so much for joining me today. I love the conversation.
Thank you for having me.
I look forward to having you on again soon. Right, so I'm Melanie Carstens once again. I've been chatting to Mitchell of the Stacks Foundation, and I hope you enjoyed the conversation. If you did, head over to my YouTube channel, the link's in the bio, and like and subscribe and do all those kind of things that you do on YouTube. Share the show out, let your friends know about it, let them know what we're doing here at Stacks. And yeah, we're here every single Thursday at 12 p.m. ET, and I hope to see you next week. Thank you very much. Thanks, Mitchell.
Appreciate it.